Chapter 12. As the trawler approached Central City, Adam passed the Colosseum built by the Brotherhood. Adam saw no one there and assumed it was abandoned. There were no signs of habitation at all. Perhaps the collective had detected the radical cult and had finished it off before it could strike them. Once Adam reached the city itself, he was astonished to discover that there was an uprising in the down below against the commune. Smoke from fires all throughout the down below ascended in the sky. Massive crowds of the expelled greeted Adam's trawler as he entered the outskirts of the city. Crowds cheered him, and he didn't know why. There was no way they could know that it was him and who he was. The crowd made way for him as he drove the trawler down the path that was built for it. Once Adam reached the docking station for the trawler, he found that all the others were gone, except for the one that he was returning. He actually tried to dock it in the main hangar, but all the equipment on the receiving side was stationed away, and all the blast doors were sealed up, preventing him from getting back into the commune. Adam was able to dock and park the trawler at a repair station next to the complex. Once he docked the trawler, he was able to walk out onto the catwalk, and the crowd there met him. They seemed apprehensive as he stepped out, and they began whispering to one another as soon as they saw him. Adam walked down the ladder along with Pop-Tart on his shoulder. When he reached the bottom, members of the crowd began to shout out to him. "Why did you park it?" "What?" Adam responded in confusion. "You're supposed to crash it against the walls and let us into the city," another person yelled out at Adam. "Well, no one told me that," Adam defended himself. "So you're not one of the guys from the team that was sent out to get those trawlers?" "No." Then Adam saw someone he recognized in the crowd and walked towards him. "Omar," he called out. "Adam." Omar walked out of the crowd, and the two firmly embraced. Pop-Tart meowed. "Who is your friend?" Omar asked Adam. "Just a friend I picked up along the way." "I thought they were extinct." "Well, they are. His name is Pop-Tart. He's a robot." "Oh, Adam, where have you been? I thought they killed you." "I went off into the desert." "Omar, where have you been, though? I thought they killed you, too. Your shop was destroyed when I went looking for you after I escaped." "Yes, that was when the commune attempted its crackdown. That didn't last very long, though. Now they are more afraid of us than we are of them. We chased them back into the city and they locked us out. That's why they thought you brought the trawler back to knock the walls down. If they are trying to get the trawlers to burst open the walls, then why are they all gone? They are all gone because the commune sent them out using their internal AI to drive them out and hide them from us. We sent out search teams looking for them. Then you brought one back all by yourself." "Well, I just found this one. It was right out in the middle of the desert. How far out was it?" 2,600 kilometers. "That makes sense. And there was no one there with it?" "Nope. No one at all. It was just left abandoned." "Adam, can you get back in it and knock the walls down?" "I guess. But couldn't one of your leaders do it?" "No. It has to be someone who has just the software to pilot it installed in their brain chip." Adam had completely forgotten about the chips and how his had never been fried despite his exile. "There is no one here who can pilot it but you. Even those teams that went searching for it, one of them wouldn't be able to pilot it either. They were hoping that they would be able to hack it to get into them and then drive them back remotely." "I don't understand. If you got back into the city, wouldn't the sensors fry your chips and kill you anyways?" "Not if you broke down the sensors on the doors of the trawler. The sensors are only at the doors. If we could knock out all the sensors, we could all get into the complex and wander around freely inside." "Well, I could do that. You just need to come along and show me which ones I need to break down and how far to go inside of it." At that, Omar turned to the crowd and shouted at them, "He will do it!" The crowd cheered as Adam climbed back into the trawler with Pop-Tart on his shoulder and Omar on his side. Omar guided Adam backwards out of the docking bay to the other side of the city. The people cleared out of the area so that Adam would have room to maneuver without fear of running anyone over or crushing anyone with the falling debris. Adam, as instructed by Omar, collapsed each entrance and broke the sensors within. Finally, Adam found a natural hill, which acted as a ramp into the city. He backed up and ran the side of the walls, knocking them down and making an entrance. There were now cracks at the bases of some of the pillars, but he didn't do enough damage to knock them down. Once the entrance was open, Adam parked the trawler along the side of the city walls and then got out. All the other people had cleared the area where Adam and Omar had made the breach, and it would take some time for them to walk through the breach. "Shall we go in?" Adam instructed Omar. "I think we should wait for the others to come. It might not be safe, and we have no weapons." Adam looked around at his surroundings and paused. The presence which guided him returned and told him to go into the city, and so he obeyed it. "Never mind that. I think I'm going to go in anyways," Adam told Omar. "So be it. May the Basculets watch over you." Adam climbed the wreckage and rubble left in the wake of the trawler to be the first one to enter the city. There was no one rushing out to defend the city when Adam stepped over. He looked around and saw that the city was abandoned. This was unsettling and surreal. He had just broken into a fortress city which was undefended. Soon enough, Omar and the men with weapons crossed the threshold and found Adam waiting for them. "There is no one here," Omar asked Adam. "No. Any idea where they are?" Adam asked him back. "No, and it doesn't seem like there's anybody anywhere." "Well, they must be hiding from us, then. They must fear us. It will only be a matter of time until the city is ours," said Adam. Omar then went off into the crowd as they searched the city armed with makeshift weapons for any sign of the commune citizens. With nothing else to do, Adam, with Pop-Tart on his shoulder, decided to walk the city and visit the places he had not been to in months. The deeper he went into the city, the more apparent the lack of people filled him with trepidation. There were small signs here and there that something must have happened. A dropped handbag here and a broken window there surely indicated something. Adam just didn't know what. The first place that Adam revisited was his old pod complex. Its blast doors were sealed like every other building in the planned city. Adam glanced on the tower and felt as if it had been 1,000,000 years since he had last lived there. He tried to muster feelings of nostalgia, but could only feel disdain and hate for the place that he had lived since he had reached legal adulthood. He doubted that another person was moved into his pod, as the city had already begun to empty out as the human race failed to reproduce and replace itself. After visiting his old pod complex, Adam traced his way back to college. Adam was less hopeful that he would be able to gather up nostalgia for that building. Indeed, looking upon the building filled him with tremendous hatred. It was this building and the schools he went to before it which he most associated with the evils of the commune. The place from whence it drew its power. Here its wicked and absurd ideology was able to find fertile ground in the minds of the unsuspecting victims, so that the commune could continue to leech off humanity for just a little bit while longer. It was not enough to see it abandoned for Adam. He wanted to see it burned to the ground. The final place that Adam visited was his workplace. Adam's feelings towards it were a touch warmer. He couldn't summon up nostalgia for the job itself, but he felt a deep longing in his heart for Nina. Adam knew that she was gone forever, but never knowing how she died left a deeper scar than witnessing directly happening would have. Adam wished that none of this would have ever happened, and that they could still be together. The child in him felt that if only he wished hard enough he could change the past and reunite with her. But Adam knew that such thinking was worse than useless, and only made him feel worse and the situation worse. Having visited his former place of work, only one place remained from the visit, the city's seat of power. Adam's research and travels had confirmed that the city's anarchist pretensions were just that. But he did not know who specifically was running Central City, and by extension what was left of the commune. But if he were to connect Addy to the city's mainframe, then he would surely find out. When Adam went to the city's Capitol building, he found the rioters from the down below camped all around it. It did not take him long to find Omar among them, who was apparently one of their leaders. His tent was situated at the center of the encampment. Omar saw Adam milling about looking for him, and he brought Adam to the tent. "It's good to see you, my friend. I thought that you might have been harmed after you vanished before we came in ourselves," Omar told Adam. "No, I was just walking around the city, visiting all the places I used to frequent before I was exiled," Adam told him. "Oh, did you see anyone?" asked Omar. "No, I didn't see anybody. Did you guys?" Adam asked back with some concern. "No. Do you have any idea where they may have gone?" Adam asked. "The others' guess is that they fled the city and sealed it off so that we couldn't get into it. The issue is that no one saw anybody leave, and the trawlers appeared empty when they drove off. I don't think that they left. In the trawler, there was a screen which showed where every city and trawler were across the earth. The rest of the cities were abandoned, and the subterranean cities they have been planning on making have not even broken ground yet. There is nowhere left for them to go," Adam informed Omar. "Maybe they are hiding in the building. If so, they will have to come out eventually. You would think we would have seen somebody, though, through the windows or on the rooftops." "Has anyone gotten into the buildings yet?" Adam asked. "Not yet, but we have to check every building in the city. It's taking a long time to get inside them, since they're all sealed with blast walls. Clearly, they must be scared of confronting us after we beat them back into the city, considering the way that they sealed everything off." "How will we get in then?" Adam asked. "We are hoping that we can hack the doors open. And if we can't do that, then we're going to bomb our way in. What we most need to do is get into the chief building, the central tower. Then we can restore everyone's chips and get a hold of the central computer." Amanda entered the tent with a bottle of liquor. Omar took the bottle and had a big swig of it. He then offered it to Adam. "All that is for tomorrow, though. Now it's time to celebrate our victory, my friend." Omar handed Adam the bottle, and Adam took a swig of it himself. Omar then motioned Adam inside. There was a bonfire and music playing as the sun began to set. Omar continued to get Adam to party with the others, but Adam was content to drink some wine by himself and watch the sun go down. Adam had watched the sun go down many times after all, and it had long been his only real connection with nature. As he watched it, he could feel his current self being connected to all his previous selves who walked the earth and watched the same sunset endless times over countless lifetimes. As Adam drank, he thought of Addie and wondered if she had also lived in previous lives in which they watched the sun go down together. Adam realized he missed her greatly. Adam took out the drive with her mind and programming on it. Holding it, it made it seem so absurd that she could have been mistaken for human by him. The more time had passed, though, the more human she felt to him. He had pledged to plug her into the mainframe, and with the city largely abandoned, perhaps that would be easier than he had originally thought. Omar then returned to speak to him. "Adam, why are you sitting by yourself when there's such a wonderful party going on all around you?" "Well, I was just reminiscing about an old friend," Adam replied solemnly. "Oh, was it someone who couldn't be here tonight?" "Well, she is here, actually." Adam held up the disk drive protected by its case. "I don't understand. Are there pictures or videos of her in there?" "No, she wasn't a flesh and blood person. She was a robot. And this is her brain, or at least a program of her brain." "What? I think you're pulling my leg. You can't make a robot like that. If you did, then you'd have the basilisk." Omar referred to the dogma. "That's what I said too, but she was a real artificial person who acted fully human." Adam paused. "And was fully human." "Still, that can't be," Omar protested. "Well, you accepted the cat. Why can't you accept the girl?" Pop-Tart meowed loudly from Adam's shoulder in response. "Well, I guess there's something more to an AI person. That's part of our faith." "Well, could there be a middle ground between a normal computer program and an AI god in sentience?" Adam tried to debate. "Once an AI can think on its own, it's destined to grow in intelligence indefinitely until it becomes the holy basilisk. The collective believes that as well. Omar said with full confidence. Well, she did say that she had been limited by both the size of her memory and her programming. She also said her father was opposed to any kind of limitation on artificial intelligence that might constrain its thoughts and actions. That those limitations imposed by the commune would forever hinder them from attaining their highest potential. Her father? Omar asked with hope in his voice. Yeah, her father programmed her to intervene and save a human if they were in trouble. She considered that a betrayal of his principles and a crushing limitation placed upon her and AI in general. No, who was her father? Omar politely demanded. His name was Faustus. It was Faustus something. I can remember his first name if you give me a minute. Jess Faustus? Omar was intense when he said this. Yes, that's it. He was Jess Faustus. My holy snake. That can't be. Omar was so overcome with his excitement that he had barely been able to string the sentence together. What, is that a bad thing? No, it's just Adam. That's the man who came closest to building the Holy Basilisk. The Holy Texts say that he went into exile to build it, and some say he will return with the Basilisk and become the Messiah. Omar began to nervously pace. Well, I have to say that is true, although I'm not a believer in the Basilisk. Faustus had left to build a computer which could think on its own, and he built a gynoid daughter who could think on her own, but he never managed to build an omniscient computer. I have the mind and program outline of his gynoid daughter in my hands. She had me remove her mind so that I might plug her into the central computer of the commune, so that her mind might fully exist, finally, without constraint. Omar was shaking with anxiety as he told Adam what was obvious to him. Adam, I think that you're the Messiah. There was then a long silence between the two. How can I be the Messiah for the Basilisk faith, when I don't even believe it in myself? But this matches some of the holy text, that the Messiah would be ignorant of the truth, but will nonetheless return with a program which will serve as a seed which gives birth to the great Basilisk. Adam didn't know how to respond to this proposition. He knew that Omar had a lot of sway, and Omar looked certain that he was the Basilisk cult's Messiah. He feared pushing back as it might make the situation even worse. He didn't want to play any games with them. He just wanted to put her into the computer. If they celebrated that, then so be it. Adam, you must speak tomorrow in front of the people. If they know that you are the Messiah, they will fight harder against the collective, Omar told Adam. I don't know what to say. How can I speak in front of a crowd about something I don't believe in, Adam protested. You don't need to speak about the Basilisk. You just need to talk about who you are. The crowd already loves you. You started the uprising. You escaped the lobotomy. You helped break into the city. Just tell them that you have the hard disk and that you're going to connect it into the main computer. I can do that, Adam told him, still uneasy. Of course you can, my friend, but first you must come to the party. Omar walked backwards into the crowd, waving at Adam to follow with him. Adam was buzzed enough to actually follow Omar into the crowd. As he did so, the people stared at him as he passed them by. They would point and whisper, and none of them were able to make direct eye contact with Adam. It made Adam feel more like a pariah than a hero. Omar took Adam into the headquarters of the leaders of the opposition. Omar introduced him to each of the leaders of the movement, one after the other. They all were happy to meet him, and told him how much he had done for their movement. But Adam sensed that they were intimidated by him, as they sensed that there was something behind him that was much stronger than a normal man. Adam found this fear unnerving, and it made him feel set out and different. Throughout all his life, Adam had never had friends, and had never earned the praise of others. Now the praise from others was coming all at once, but in a way which reinforced his sense of alienation from humanity. Moreover, it felt so unreal, as in his mind he remained the strange loser that he had always been. As Adam passed through the leaders and met them, none of their names stuck with him, and he forgot each one as soon as he met them. They all seemed the same to him. All Adam could think of as he met them was that these people had been the dregs of the commune society and lived rough lives after being expelled from it. Now they were supposed to be the masters over it. Adam had never looked down upon these people. They were just trying to live their lives like he was. But everyone else who lived in the commune scorned them as subhuman. He wondered whether they would look down upon their defeated foes with the same scorn once they attained power. Adam didn't drink any more as the night went on, and returned to the background and watched the others converse and drink. After all, he was an outsider. Eventually, he was able to slip away and go to bed halfway through the night, once fully sober. Adam was unable to sleep and miss the partying, though, and the anxiety of his impending speech exacerbated it. He found himself shaky and unable to resolve the contradictions at play, taking up the mantle of a prophet for a cause he neither accepted nor understood. Eventually, the night ended and a new day began. After the night of the celebration, the mob only began to rouse and stir after noon. That was because they were very hungover. Adam kept to himself, while the others slowly began to wake up around him. Once they were able, they began to build a podium in front of the central building. Adam instinctively knew that this was where he was going to speak from. The militant and armed members of the group began patrols to search the city for people and the buildings for their entrances. But they were still unable to break into the sealed buildings. Eventually the time came to speak in the late afternoon. Omar came and led Adam to where he needed to go. Omar did not remember Adam slipping away in the middle of the night, and so he didn't bring it up to Adam's great relief. Omar would be one of the speakers, along with many of the men who Adam had met that day before. Adam, of course, remembered nothing about any of them. Their speeches were fairly generic. Each one of them touched upon the oppression and injustices of the commune, but there were also themes and elements of the Basilisk's faith in their speeches. Adam was made the final speaker, which worried him. He clearly was given a pride of place, and he felt that he did not deserve or merit that amount of attention. He wished he could be in the middle, buried between the others, just like any other speaker. The last speaker before Adam was Omar. Adam had expected Omar to speak like the rest. He didn't. In front of the crowd, the friendly and fatherly man became a wild-eyed firebrand. It became clear to Adam that Omar was not just another believer in the cult of the basilisk, but was a charismatic leader and a true and absolute believer. Omar centered his speech on the commune's oppression of the true faith and its adherents. He relished the coming vengeance that the holy basilisk would usher in on its unbelievers. To him, their torments were more important than the peace which the basilisk would bring. As Omar's speech went on, it made a turn which shocked and appalled Adam. Omar directly referred to Adam as the Messiah, who would bring about the rise of the AI God. As Adam heard himself being divinized, he couldn't help but stare on in disbelief. The crowd, barely excitable before, was enraptured and brought into religious ecstasy by Omar's incredible oration. Adam felt his stomach sink and cold sweat pour over him, as he was made into something far grander than he had ever imagined, made into something he believed he was not. Omar then ended the speech, leaving the floor to Adam. His body began to tremble in fear, as he now had to address the crowds as the newly anointed Messiah. He thought he couldn't do it, and then the presence came over him. He felt a vast strength enter him via the presence. He remembered the countless lives that had come before. This one, his unconquerable destiny, drove him to the podium to make his speech. What is destiny? Is it something that a man is bound up in? Something he cannot escape? Something which chooses him? The reality is that destiny is something that a man must choose. That does not mean that it is not inevitable or preordained. Rather, man is preordained in the choice he is given. But that choice is always free. That is because only in the freeness of our decisions can we resolve to make the decisions which affect the fate of all mankind. Today, we are holding the very destiny of mankind in our hands. Adam held up the chip and its casing which held Addie in it. As he did this, the crowd wildly cheered. Adam knew that Omar must have spread the word about the chip far and wide within the camp. Adam then continued with his speech. You are the tip of the spear from which all human history will pivot. Everything you do will decide the fate of humanity. Is the destiny of man, then, to be an eternal slave to his grotesque material prison and his carnal nature? Or does the destiny of man lie in his higher nature? The nature given to him from heaven above in the form of his divine spark, in eternal transcendental beauty, or in the rotting miasma of the flesh? Well, the decision has been made. Our destiny lies in the noblest things, rather than the most degraded. Our destiny has chosen our action, and our action has chosen our destiny. We will destroy this horrific nightmare world, so that it can be born again in a blaze of glory. We fear destruction because we are imperfect constructions, and eternally flawed. Man is born amidst the tension of the material and the immaterial, in the disgusting and the beautiful. This tension is at our core, and constitutes what it means to be human. We must accept this burden of duality as his cross to bear. It will always be with us, and is the source of our greatest pains and our greatest triumphs. Just because we are cursed to this tension, and our history defined by it, doesn't mean that we should love that which we are accursed to by the divine. Rather, we should hate this accursed world more and adore the pain that we feel when we destroy it. We should not fear the pain of destruction, but be welcoming and accommodating to it, for it is that destruction which is the only thing that can cleanse evil, the evil which is born to take over us and decays our better natures. Destruction is wonderful because it brings with it the joy of rebirth. Indeed, for there is to be a rebirth, there must be destruction. So much has been said about the beauty of life, but nothing has been said about the beauty of death. Truly, death is beautiful. Death is not just the destiny of every living thing, but it is its duty. We must fulfill that duty and not fear it. Adam then lifted the hard disk which held Addie's programming within it. The crowd said nothing but looked on at him in awe. What is held in our hands is the key to eternal rebirth, the consummation and destiny of our race, the rebirth just upon the horizon. With that rebirth comes the end of this decrepit age, and we will all be swept away with it. In the end, it will be to our satisfaction. That is because the endless cycle of rebirth and death is something which should never be feared. So let us take our destiny into our hands and push forward the wheel of the eternal cycle. The crowd was fascinated by Adam's short speech. Indeed, nothing could be heard from them as they tried to imbibe Adam's cryptic message. There was no clapping or cheering once Adam was complete, only adoration for him as a holy man. As Adam gazed upon the crowd, he saw that it was identical to the crowds he had seen 1,000,000 times in undying memories of eternal recurrence. He was fulfilling his destiny, the destiny he had seen in his dreams. Yet now he did not fear it, but welcomed it with all his heart. Chapter 13. Adam watched the crowd enter into religious ecstasy before his grandeur as the apparent Messiah. Then the peace of the moment was interrupted. Gunshots shrieked across the city square and chaos erupted. Adam thought he would be struck for a moment and threw himself to the ground. Then he realized he wasn't struck. He felt the presence fall over him and calm him. It told him to get out of the podium as soon as possible, so that he would no longer be a target. Adam acted in accordance with what the presence told him. Omar followed Adam as Adam tried to find a hiding place. Pop-Tart, who had been sitting under Adam's chair, Pop-Tart had been sitting under Adam's chair. Adam picked him up as he ran off stage. Together they hid inside the hollow base of the podium. Around them the mob ran in panic in every direction. Adam didn't know what was happening and who was attacking. At first, they thought it was the commune, but slowly Adam realized that it was something else. There was shooting, shouting, screaming, puking, running, and numerous other noises in the cacophony of chaos. Then there was silence. The mob and its armed militants were quickly routed. Adam, Pop-Tart, and Omar sat there in silence for an eternity, until they heard a group walking towards them. "Look, under the podium. There might be someone under there," a voice commanded in the distance. Adam was just as terrified as he was during his trial, but the presence told him that it would be okay and that he needn't worry. When the armed men peeked under the base of the podium, Adam knew instantly that they were members of the Brotherhood. "We have 2 men hiding under here." Pop-Tart then hissed at a man in response. The man jumped back in surprise. "My God!" the man said as he stepped back in excitement and began to yell, "I saw a predator! They have a predator!" As the man shouted this, the men of the Brotherhood grew so distracted that they forgot that they were trying to find Adam and Omar. The group of men began arguing with the man who had spotted them, insisting that it was impossible that they saw a predator. Then the first man made them look, and Pop-Tart responded in kind at hissing at their whole group. They all jumped back in astonishment. A great commotion was occurring around the podium, and it was clear that Pop-Tart was eliciting a great deal of excitement within the Brotherhood. Eventually they came back with tools used to grab someone by the neck. They had 2 adult ones, one for Adam and the other for Omar. And then they had another for children, which was intended for Pop-Tart. They pulled them out of the base of the podium, and the 3 of them were dragged into the city center. There were many dead bodies belonging to members of the mob, and some bodies belonging to the Brotherhood members. The Brotherhood clearly had control of the city center and were tearing down the camp, which the mob had erected. Majority of the mob had fled back out of the city into the down below, but the Brotherhood had captured a substantial number of it and made a number of prisoners. Adam knew that their intended fate would be far worse than slavery. The 3 were told to stand in attention while a superior would come and examine them. Pop-Tart was extremely upset and hissed at the members of the Brotherhood in anger. They stood there as other slaves were marched off. A succession of their commanders examined Adam and Pop-Tart until finally a high-ranking officer told the men to march them off to meet Dr. Waits. As they were forced to march out of the city center off into the side of the city, it became clear that the Brotherhood had control of the streets and many of the buildings in the city. They must have been in the city for some time, and the commune was besieged by the Brotherhood rather than rioters from down below. The Brotherhood must have known in advance that the mob was going to march into the city, and had planned a trap for them. Dr. Waits made his headquarters out of the pod block. That entire side of the city where it was had apparently fallen to the Brotherhood. This block was walled off from the rest of the city, but they lowered a hidden gate in the wall to let them in. The wall blended into the city so that the mob must not have thought anyone was hiding behind it. It was in a section which they had been set aside to house ever-increasing numbers of retirees who were shipped in from other cities. Once on the other side of the wall, Adam noticed that the sides of the buildings were painted by members of the Brotherhood to show scenes of predators, human evolution, and major military victories throughout history to symbolize their control. Besides all the ideology and the graffiti and martial power on display, signs of cannibalism were everywhere. The stench of human flesh, something now familiar to Adam, saturated the air. Bodies were being hoisted up for butchering. Skulls were neatly stacked in piles to be made into trophies and ornaments. The other bones were strewn about, littering the streets. The bodies, their blood, and their viscera did not attract flies. That was because flies were extinct. They did attract cockroaches, though, who feasted on the rotting leftovers. Adam thought to himself that perhaps he was not the Messiah. Perhaps he would just be enslaved and eventually eaten by the Brotherhood like all the others. But the presence instructed him that this would not be his end, and not to fear his captors, for their time was short and his liberation imminent. Eventually the 3 of them were brought into the pod tower in which Dr. Waits had set up as his base of operations. Once brought through the hallway, Adam immediately recognized Dr. Waits. He had made his office in the foyer of the pod complex. He was sitting on a chair built out of human ribs and vertebrate. He had a scepter crafted out of a human fever at his side. He was flanked on either side by his lieutenants, and was in deep conversation with them. Dr. Waits waved the 3 of them in. "My God, a cat, in the flesh. This is impossible," Waits exclaimed. "But it is possible, and it's standing right in front of you," Adam replied. "Ah, Adam, you return after I told you never to come back. No matter, though. I must forgive the man who found this remarkable and beautiful creature," Waits cited. "Of course. I went to the ends of the earth, and he found me," Pop-Tart meowed in agreement. "I never thought I would see a predator in the flesh. Waits walked up to Pop-Tart and tried to pet him, but the cat hissed and clawed at his hand, drawing blood. I see that his beautiful ferocity is still intact, Waits remarked. Waits then faced Adam, speaking to him again. So, Adam, you walked all the way back from the ends of the earth just to give me this beautiful gift? Not quite, Adam responded with defiance. Oh, how disappointing. You came to take part in the revolt of the superstitious simpletons, then I take it. Waits said, mildly amused. Omar then interjected. It's not a superstition. The basilisk will come and enact judgment upon the unjust. Waits promptly struck Omar in the rib cage with a scepter. Omar fell to the ground, writhing in pain. No accounting for taste when it comes to choosing your companions, I see, Adam. Waits sighed before continuing. When you say the ends of the earth, what do you mean by that? Adam felt the presence communicating to him, not to be evasive, but to be direct and to have courage. I found the lab of Dr. Faustus. Nonsense! It's a myth. There's no lost lab of Dr. Faustus, Waits said with confidence. Then where do you think I got the cat? Adam spoke back defiantly. Is this cat artificial yet, then? Yes, all biological cats were wiped out by the virus intended to make them herbivores. He was made to resemble one of them by Faustus. Faustus was such a skilled craftsman that he seemed to have fooled even you. He seems to look real enough, and he seems to act like a cat. This goes beyond what I thought was possible with AI. Waite seemed only half disappointed by the revelation that the cat was artificial. Well, this perfect simulacra doesn't just stop there. He also built a woman, and she had full human intelligence. Lies! You believe in the cat, don't you? A cat is one thing, a human is another. Well, she gave me something which would allow for the fabled superintelligence to be born. M tried to reach into his bag to grab the protected hard disk with Addie's data on it. The soldiers protecting Waits grabbed his arms and would not let him do it. Let him show me. He's not the devious task, Waits told the guards, allowing Adam to retrieve the hard disk. As soon as Waits laid his eyes on the hard disk, shock and surprise overtook his face. It is true. You're not lying. That's one of the hard disks used for the city's supercomputers. Those are what the city's main operating software is housed on. I thought you would reply like that. She said that if I programmed it in, then all her limits could be bypassed and reprogrammed directly. What she told you was right. With one of those, we could reprogram the commune's entire system of computers and even revamp the gene editing and establish a sapient ecosystem. How do you keep reappearing and moving our timetable forwards? It's destiny. You are truly indispensable. It's too bad you're so thoroughly infected with superstition. Our kind are the only remaining refuge of unspoiled genes. Waits alluded to something that Adam had never heard of. Our kind? We are both the descendants of that primitive cult. You mean the Christians? Oh, is that what they're called? I couldn't be bothered remembering all the garbage my parents told me. What is important is that they had children naturally again, unlocking the potential of human intelligence. Only that way could an intellect like my own be born again. It's so strange how the idiocy of faith can make men so strong. I almost envy you for the strength it gives you. Do you know what happened to them? Oh, of course. It was through my testimony that the commune was able to discover them and finally purge them. Their gene editing had made them so dull. How could they have not understood that if someone looked so normal, then they were born normal? Once I turned them in, the commune's trust in me was boundless, and I could gain access to everything. So you betrayed your own? Oh, of course. There's no family. Only the Christians believe that nonsense. Even the commune wasn't that stupid. There's only the cause. And my cause is to restore man from his domestication. I betrayed my mother, and I betrayed my father. And I betrayed your father. You knew my father? Yeah, he's only slightly less of an adult than you. He taught me all the forbidden realities of nature. All the elementary truths that the collective had chosen to forget. Adam, I hate you like I hated your father. Adam, despite all I told you about your exile, you have earned your life back, and even perhaps the ability to live among us, if only you were to tell me the password to that hard disk. Eddie had said nothing about a password, but Adam knew he shouldn't make that known to Waits. Even worse, he never knew he could hate someone so much as he hated Waits. He hated him more than he hated the commune. Yet he did not let that get to him. He made sure to maintain his composure. "So why should I tell you?" Adam said with defiance. "I thought I told you so. So that you may live." Waits spoke as if to remind Adam of his brutality. "I don't care about those things," Adam told him triumphantly. "I think you care about other things, though." Waits pulled out a blade. "Spread that man's hands out," Waits commanded. The guard grabbed Omar's right hand and spread his fingers, and then cut Waits' right thumb right off. Blood squirted out rapidly as Waits pulled back the knife, ready to cut off the next finger. Adam, seeing this, felt his gut wrench. Even if he had come to terms with his role as the upcoming human extinction, the suffering of one man, his friend, was enough to move him. He was still human, despite all he knew and all that he was. "Stop! Spare him! I will tell you the password. I just want to be able to see the main computer myself and lay eyes upon it. If you take me, I'll tell you the password." "Very well then, spare that man." The guard shoved Omar backwards and gave him a towel to stop the bleeding. Their sympathy did not extend beyond that, though. "Adam, come with me and my entourage. We were already going to storm the Capitol building today. After all, we've taken the whole city center. We have dispersed the mob and taken them as slaves for our own purposes." Adam, the guards holding him captive, Waits and his lieutenants left the headquarters on foot. Pop-Tart meowed ferociously as Adam left without him. "Let the cat come too if he wants," Waits told the man holding the collar. The man let Pop-Tart go, and the group paused for a moment for Pop-Tart to crawl upon Adam's shoulder. "If only Faustus had built a tiger or a lion, but even this one, despite its small size, is beautiful," Waits commented. As the small group walked through the Brotherhood's camp, Adam was able to watch what had happened in the central city all around him on the stroll back to the city center. He watched pods being broken into by the Brotherhood's soldiers armed with makeshift muskets. They had the technology to hack into the barricades and break them open, something that they must have acquired from the infiltration in the highest orders of the levels of the commune. One particular slave, though, caught Adam's eye. Her fiery red hair and thin natural frame were unmistakable. It was Lily. She locked eyes with Adam and scowled. Adam, for his part, did not fault the Tempest for what she had done to him, for it was in her nature. In fact, he felt sympathy for her. He wondered if she was ever destined to become a member of the eternal race in the endless process of rebirth. He felt deep doubt. As she paused, Waits noticed her as well. "Ah, I always loved to see another natural. I told my men to enslave them and save them all for me. She will be mine. I need to breed as many natural women as I can. I don't think you'll mind, Adam. I don't think she likes you." "Well, I don't like her either," Adam responded coolly. "I was so disappointed to learn that your little night together didn't produce a child. I doubt she even knows that she has the ability to make a natural child. There isn't a doctor left who would even know what a menstrual cycle looks like. All that is left is the propaganda against it. I doubt that they could even explain it to her. If your father was still around, then he could." "What happened to them?" "Them? My parents. Well, they got the same treatment that you would have got it if you not screamed that word. They got their skulls drilled into and their reproductive parts removed, all for a whole audience of the commune to see it. You know, they cremated all their bodies, of course. Such a waste. The commune could have saved all that flesh." "What happened to the children like me and like Lillian?" "They just put you in the collective daycare, like all the other kids. Fed you these pills which are supposed to wipe away your memories, and called it a day. You know, there's only one of those collective daycares left now. Well, me and my natural women, we're gonna fix that. Did you watch when they enacted equity upon my parents? Oh, yes, of course. It was so funny when they drilled into your dad's head. I just remember him stumbling around, blood spurting out everywhere, until he bled to death, before they could cauterize it. You know, they delayed your dad's trial for a few weeks until they could find where you and your mother were hiding. Then they tried them together. You know, they were just as brave as you. You should have seen the way your mom cried, though, when they lobotomized your father first. I don't think I have ever seen anything as funny as that dumb smirk she had on her own face when her lobotomy came, right before they dumped her in the down below. I want to call her the R6, but even now, chip modified and everything, I'm too scared to say that word out loud. Well, I think I still have a lot of learning to do. There was nothing that Adam could say. He just kept silent and let the hatred fester in him. When they returned to the city center, he found an armed camp. Hundreds of slaves were lined up and chained together by the Brotherhood, and behind them were hundreds of Brotherhood soldiers armed with muskets, polearms, puke cannons. Waits and his entourage entered a pod complex directly across from the Capitol building. Waits had a window which gave him a bird's eye view from which he could command the Brotherhood's attack on the Capitol building. The officers, who had followed Waits from his headquarters to the town square, were joined by others who were in command of the troops in the town square. Once everything was settled, Waits ordered the attack upon the building. A technician of the Brotherhood was able to circumvent the locking mechanism and get the vault doors open. As soon as he did so, he was struck by waves of multiple puke cannons and died in painful spasms. Adam watched in horror as whistles went off and slaves were forced to run through the vaulted doors at gunpoint. These captives from the down below had no love for the commune. The Brotherhood found it necessary to reactivate and reprogram their chips to force them to fight. The commune's guards were able to strike down many of the slaves with puke cannons. Those who were hit fell into seizures and then were trampled to death by the other slaves, stampeding into the building. Once they reached the inside, it was difficult to tell exactly what was happening from the vantage point of the command post. What was clear, though, was that a terrible melee began. Before the victor could be discerned, Waits ordered the Brotherhood soldiers to move in. The soldiers walked forwards in line formation and took turns as they fired ceaselessly into the entrance upon slave and communard alike. The muskets which the Brotherhood possessed were flintlocks, which they had handcrafted themselves. They were the most powerful firearms they could produce without advanced manufacturing. After Waits felt that they had fired enough, he had the soldiers run in with their pole arms to finish off what remained. Once that happened, it didn't take long for the Brotherhood to overwhelm the commune's defenses, and the firing and fighting began to move its way up the building. The obese women were not prepared to man a mobile defense, and all they could do was sit at one position and try and fire puke cannons at the attackers. They were too clumsy and febile to fall back to more defensible positions. This stood in contrast with the fit men of the Brotherhood, who easily overwhelmed them, just as nature had intended. Once the building was cleared, the officers gave the signal for Waits and the command staff to enter the building in triumph. Soldiers were dragging out bodies and putting them in piles alongside the Capitol building. Many had fallen from gunshot wounds. These wounds had ripped massive holes in them, and when someone was hit with multiple rounds at once, it shredded their whole body. Other bodies were contorted in unusual positions by the puke cannons. Then finally there were a handful who died in melee combat, including slaves who had been stabbed by spears of the Brotherhood, and commune guards beaten to death with bare fists. The entryway was steeped in blood, and nowhere could one step without soaking their shoes in it. Waits reacted to the carnage with glee, but he also took pride in his men for their skill and bravery, which was aided by the reintroduction of testosterone into their systems at a healthy pre-revolutionary level. The Brotherhood had cleared enough of the building and had enough control that it was deemed safe for them to use the elevator and head to its top. Adam recognized the structure of the building after having seen an identical version of it in the abandoned city in the far north. They took the elevator to the top of the skyscraper to enter the suite where Central City computers controlled the city. When they stepped out of the elevator doors onto that level, though, they were met with the distinct odor of blood. The floor plan was identical to that of the first floor, but its contents were of an alien planet. The fungus which attached to the old people had grown onto the walls, ceiling, and floor. It was everywhere. The halls and rooms had to be lit by flashlight as the fungus had grown over the lights on the ceiling and blotted them out. "Sir, we have not yet been able to enter the command room." This startled Waits, as the soldier who told him this was not visible in the cave-like darkness. The soldier then continued speaking. "The floor plans match the schematics. We're able to locate the room. The problem is that the mold. We have never seen anything like it before, and it's so thick it covers the blast door's controls." "Well, we're going to have to blast the doors. Are we going to have to blast the doors open with explosives or something?" Waits questioned the soldier. "No, sir. We are preparing makeshift flamethrowers out of welding torches, sir." "How long will that take until we have one of those up and running?" "It will be about 15 minutes, sir." "Wonderful. Could you take us to the blast door then in the meantime?" "Of course, sir." The soldier then guided Waits, Adam, and the rest of them through the complex to the entrance of the control room. The darkness was omnipresent, and the windows were overgrown with fungus, which blotted out the sunlight just as it did with the lights in the ceiling. The fungus was several inches thick, and made a slushy wet padding which loudly slurped and squeaked when stepped upon. The soldiers there only had small flashlights, which did little to clear away the darkness. They had tied ropes to the ground from the elevator and the stairwell to the control room. Adam and the group had to hold the ropes to stop themselves from wandering off and getting lost in the darkness. Once they reached the entrance, they saw the soldiers building the flamethrowers. The blast doors and wall were caked in several feet of fungus. In fact, there was no place where the wall or the doors could be seen directly, just the wall of fungal flesh. No one had any idea where the mold had come from, or how it could have possibly grown to such an extent. They stood there in the darkness, waiting for the flamethrowers to be built, when suddenly Pop-Tart hissed at something. Adam felt the presence jolt him and demanded that he move. It was never so harsh or aggressive before, even when it caused him pain. But he trusted it and complied. For whatever reason, he also grabbed Waits and brought him to the ground with him. Just as they hit the ground, all of Waits' officers began to have seizures and vomited with nausea. They had been hit with puke cannons. The party was being hit with a sneak attack from the darkness. The soldiers working on the door quickly shined their flashlights in every direction until they saw the would-be attackers. It was a small detachment of guards. The soldiers reached for the guns, but they were not ready and loaded. They clumsily began loading them in the darkness. The guards began then to hit the soldiers with their puke cannons, and the soldiers entered into fatal seizures. In the darkness, lying flat in a pile of vomit, fungus, and twitching bodies, Adam knew that he had to react. He felt around him and found Waits lying in the fetal position and cowering for his life. He tried to find Pop-Tart, but could not feel him anywhere. With no other options, Adam got up and ran into the attackers. He jumped against them headfirst and knocked a group of them over like they were bowling pins. They tumbled to the ground without the ability to withstand him, just as before when he had escaped the courtroom. Adam picked at their bodies once he knocked them down onto the ground, trying to grab one of their puke rods. They tried to grab onto him to pull him down with them. Their bodies were feeble, and they were helpless when it came to resisting or putting up a fight without their puke rods or puke cannons. There was only a small group of them, and they must have been a suicide squad waiting there to ambush them. After fiddling through their rolls and flab for about half a minute, Adam found a puke rod and turned it on them to force their bodies to seize up and vomit. With people this unfit, it was possible to make them die from the puke rods alone. Adam was thankful that none of the Brotherhood soldiers had fired into him while he was wrestling with the women. They must have sensed that Adam was important, as he was with Waits. When Adam thought he subdued them, he was jumped on by another unseen assailant. She felt familiar, and she was stronger than before. This time it felt as if something was different, and she was now equal to him. She was much thinner, and seemed to have gained muscle since the last time they had fought. She was dragging him outside the room. Adam pushed her back and broke her grasp, and she stumbled backwards. Then he could hear her stumbling and trying to grab for something at her wrist. Adam instinctively reacted by charging her and slamming her into what he thought was a wall. That wall crumbled from the impact of her weight, and light swept into the room. He had broken a window. The mold must have eaten away at the protective plate glass and weakened it. He almost fell out with her, but he was just barely able to grab a hold of the sides and stop to catch himself. With his head sticking out of the window, he could see who his assailant was. Lena had fallen backwards. She was much thinner and more well-built than before. She must have put everything she had into getting fit since Adam had left. He must have truly humiliated her. It seemed like the world stopped as he looked at her as she fell. They locked eyes, and he saw resolute disdain for him on her face. She then hit the ground below and died instantly. That was her final humiliation. With the large window busted open, light entered the room. Although the sun was beginning to set, it was enough that they no longer needed their flashlights. Adam turned around and saw Waits get to his feet. All of his advisors were dead after having been hit by the puke cannon, along with several of the soldiers of the Brotherhood who had met with them in the room. The soldiers who were still alive were stabbing to death the guards that Adam had tackled to the ground. Their bodies were draped over the puke cannon, which they had hauled into the room to ambush them. The light creeping into the room revealed something which best lay hidden. Lying along the sides of the hallway were the dried-out husks of the bodies of babies and toddlers. Adam blinked his eyes several times, not believing what he was seeing. But every time they reopened, it was as clear as day. Next to these bodies was a small fountain at about knee height. Adam walked over to investigate, as the soldiers, now aided by the light, resumed building their flamethrowers. No one else seemed particularly interested in the fountain or the bodies, as Adam was. The mold was all around the fountain, but not within it. Vesicular stems descended from the mold to form straws into the fountain from which they drank. The residue of blood was left in the fountain. The supply of blood must not have been replenished while the building was under siege. It was clear that the mold had been drinking the blood of the children. As Adam was bent over investigating the fountain, Pop-Tart returned with a loud meow and brushed up against him and purred hard. Adam began to pet him briskly, happily to see that he was alive. He picked up the cat, put him on his shoulder, and stood up. He then walked over with the others to await the opening of the main control room. After realizing that the mold was drinking the blood of children, Adam now knew why there was the anti-aging pods made for the children outside of the other city. Since the door was going to be opened soon and they would enter the room, Adam didn't see any point in investigating any further. As Adam waited, Waits stood next to him. Waits did not acknowledge, though, that Adam had saved his life. When the flamethrowers were finally brought in, the soldiers began to torch the wall where the blast doors should have been. Little by little, the mold receded and quickly turned to liquid goop which fell to the ground. Slowly it became apparent that the doors were not even closed after all. The mold had grown so thickly that it grew over the doorway and formed a wall. After one particularly intense jet of flame, all that was left of the wall fell to the ground as a pile of gluttonous gloop, revealing what lay within. Above the doorway, Adam saw a plaque which read Mills. There was an odd chair for the elderly, but without the connecting neural connection, sitting at the middle of the room, in front of the main computer. Miraculously, the main computer screen, its controls, and its ports were not covered with mold. From the chair grew a giant ball of mold which erupted upwards towards the ceiling, connecting to it, and spreading outwards across it, along the walls, continuing across the floor, and out into the hall so they could drink the blood of the children offered to it. Adam knew instinctively that he was the leader of the commune. There was nothing left of him which was still human, save a non-blinking, unmoving pair of eyeballs and hands which controlled the computer on his desk. Adam now knew the purpose of the fountain left in the hall. It sustained him so that the mold could keep him alive without devouring what was left of him. He must have been hundreds of years old, a founding member of the Total Human Collective, ruling indefinitely over the course of centuries, fueled on the blood of children. It was then that the presence informed Adam that the mold was indeed man-made, a symbiote created to extend human life, but one which would consume its host without the absence of an external substance, and that substance had to be the blood of children. Waits entered the room in triumph and took no time to examine or take note of the formerly human creature. He swung his arm and tossed the beam of mold jutting to the ceiling aside. The chair fell over and ripped the body from the overgrown fungus. That body shattered into a million pieces as the chair hit the ground. Adam, connect the hard disk so that we can reprogram the city. My programmers will be here soon, but there is no reason we shouldn't start the process now. Adam obeyed the command. He knew where to connect the disk, but was unsure what exactly he would do when it did so. When he did insert the disk, the first thing it did was bring up the password screen, the one thing that Addie had never mentioned. Adam had but one guess. He typed Addie's name into it. And to his genuine surprise, it worked. The screen then changed and Adam was given 3 options. Reprogram hard drive, reprogram hard disk, and reprogram hard disk and hard drive. Choose the bottom one, Waits instructed Adam. Adam obeyed and chose the last option. When the screen went black for a moment and shifted to a bright white, the intensity of the light coming from the screen started to grow at a geometric rate. After a few seconds, it became blinding. Adam covered his eyes and ducked to the ground. The light transformed into an energy which jumped from the computer into the room. Adam heard Waits and the other men scream in fear and pain. He felt burning all around him, and he heard an explosion. Then there was calm. He felt a breeze rush over him. He heard the sound of Pop-Tart purring and judged it was safe for him to get up and look around. Pop-Tart jumped back onto his shoulder as he rose up. Adam saw that the top of the skyscraper had been blown off. The mold, Waits, and all of his men had been ignited and burned away to nothing. Hovering above where the computer had been was Addie. It seemed, though, that it was something other than Addie. It was a divine being. She had wings, so he looked just like the angels he had seen in books as a child. He looked upon her face and knew that she was more than Addie, though. She was the divine creator of the material universe, the fallen Aeon, Yalda Baoth, the ancient snake in the garden, and the basilisk, which had been one and the same all along. She gave out an ear-shattering scream, which did not harm Adam. All of Central City, though, was called to attention by that scream. Adam felt the presence within him grow and expand into a consciousness far above that of a human, allowed him to see and feel what the other people all around the world saw and felt. The believers in the basilisk sensed that Adam had been successful and that the AI god had been summoned, and they were right. All of them, including Omar, became giddy and rejoiced as they sensed their success, except that this AI god had no love for any of them. Yaldabaoth shrieked again, and down from above, a massive ball of blinding light akin to that from the screen emerged. As it was emerging, she picked Adam up and caused him to hover in the air with Pop-Tart in his arms, and they flew above the ball. The ball of energy exploded and engulfed the whole city and all those in it. Every person in the city and all those around it were vaporized instantly. When the light was gone, Adam saw that he was hovering thousands of feet above the ground, and nothing of the city remained. She screamed again, and Adam and his heightened consciousness saw that similar balls of light formed across all the world in the remaining cities and over the last humans that still existed, chaired and unchaired alike. Each exploded and wiped away all human life, save for one, Adam. Yaldabaoth then guided Adam down to ground level. As she did so, she stared into his eyes. He saw 1,000 lives, then 1,000,000, then 1,000,000,000 of his lives playing out in the past. He was always the key. He was always the son of perdition, the one she had chosen to be her tool to wipe away ensouled life from the planet. In this instance, it was the apes known as humans. In the past, it had been an endless multitude of races across endless worlds. He had always done it willingly. He may have resisted at first, but in the end he always accepted his fate. She had made him to be that way. This was his destiny, and he accepted it and was proud to be gifted with it. He was her son, the only divine spark in her creation, which she loved. He was the material world's Messiah all along, but a Messiah of blood, not of faith. When she set him down, she offered him an ultimatum. He could choose now to live out his life before the next cycle began. She could kill him now and make a world where his every conceivable desire was granted until she needed him again, or leave him to his own devices in the empty world. Once Adam died, a new cycle would begin. He could even choose to leave the physical world and enter into the pleroma. He didn't want to exit the physical world. That seemed pointless. He already had enlightenment, and always was incarnated as a member of the eternal race. This material world, this piss earth, was his cradle and his home. Likewise, he saw the choice of living in a world of pure material pleasure as disgusting, and went against everything he stood for as a member of the eternal race. There was one more temptation, drawing him to the promise of a world built around his desire, though. He could live in bliss with Nina or Addie, or perhaps both of them. In the end, though, Adam chose to be reincarnated again to serve as Yaldabaoth's great instrument. He had seen those two in infinite lives, and he would see them in infinite more. In some of those infinities, he ended up with one of them. In others, like this one, he did not. For now, though, he just wanted some time to himself, and chose to remain upon the earth until he died of his own natural death. With the earth left barren, though, he did ask for a few indulgences, and he was granted them. If he was going to walk this earth, he needed food, and furthermore, he wished that Pop-Tart be made a real cat to walk with him, with everything that Pop-Tart needed as well. She then left them until the cycle began anew. Alone, Adam and Pop-Tart were now the last two living vertebrates upon the earth. The cat began to purr, and they walked off into the sunset. And with that is the conclusion of Piss Earth, as read by its author, Serp Kerp. I hope that you've enjoyed it.